You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again to commence our broadcast journey here through the magical, the mystical, the wonderful world of options. Yes, we do that, of course, with our bi-weekly options extravaganza known around the globe as the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from this ever-compelling network upon which so many of you are binging. Reminding you, if you like what you hear and you're on the on-demand side, we know many of you are listening on your device of choice whenever you have time, commuting, working out, hanging out at your desk, maybe while you're trading. However you get the content, if you like what you hear, do keep rating and reviewing. It does help the massive influx of new folks who have been discovering the network these days. Helps that to continue, which is good for everyone out there. And then, of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you need more content in your lives. And let's face it, these days, who doesn't? You need more than the stuff that's coming at you on the on-demand side on the network. You want to go out and get, let's say, not just one exclusive show, a great pro Q&A where you go to get to ask all your questions from all the best minds in the world of options and derivatives. You get to ask them whatever the heck floats to the top of your brain. We get some fun questions there. Pro Q&A sessions every Tuesday. Options Oddities, where we break down the wild week that was from an unusual activity perspective every Friday. That's your second exclusive show. And then, of course, you get live access to this, everything else we do throughout the week. You get the pro podcast feed, so you get all of the stuff we've done there for all of our pro members since the launch of that service, which is hundreds of episodes now. So you folks have a lot of content awaiting you there that you can sink your teeth into, as well as, of course, great giveaways. We are on the cusp of giving away the October Pro Trading Crate. I saw some people tweeting out this morning that they just received their recent Pro Trading Crate, so they are very excited. Alas, you cannot buy these, listeners, so all you asking, you cannot buy them. The only way to get them is go over to theoptionsinsider.com/pro and then sign up for the Pro service there, and then you get your name entered into the hat to win these awesome crates. And they are pretty cool. They're no small effort and expense on our part to put those out to you. We have given them out in the past on the Option Block a lot, but people are jealous on the network. They want to give them out too on other shows. So we're going to spread the wealth this week. We're going to give away that Pro Trading Crate coming up on Education Wednesday on Options Bootcamp. So stay tuned for that. It should be a fun time. Speaking of fun times, we have our own fun time set aside for this show. We like to commence our broadcast week in high style, having a lot of fun out there. What better way to have fun, listeners, than guessing 80s wrestlers via their entrance music? Yes, that's what we do here to kick off the network on Mondays. And we were doing some big, broad hits. It was spooky season last week, so we went with the biggest, spookiest name around, of course, The Undertaker. A pretty easy one. But alas, there was no Uncle Mike to guess. It was just a meatball last week, so he got those bonus points for last week. This week, we're going a little bit deeper It's going to be a little bit harder cut. It's not going to be Undertaker. It's not going to be Hulk Hogan. Just throwing that out there for you right now. It's not going to be Andre, any of those guys. So it's going to be a little challenging. We're mixing up who gets to guess this week, so it should be fun. This person, definitely a mid-carder in the 80s, usually worked heel. I'm trying to think of a time when he was a face. I can't think of one off the top of my head. So usually a heel. And his entrance music might throw you a little bit because you can probably confuse it with a couple of other guys who had, let's just say, similar gimmicks. And so when you hear it, you're probably going to be choosing from a couple in your head. But can you name this 80s wrestler via their entrance music? Kind of goes on like that over and over and over. I think we finally have a buzz. I'm glad to say we are joined once again by the uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. It's no fun guessing 80s wrestlers without the guy who kind of came up with the game. So just one person is not as fun. So let's go out to the uncleist of Mikes first, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. A, welcome back to the program. We missed you last week. And B, can you hazard a guess at that, shall we say, very nationalistic theme, sir?
Very happy to be here as per always. So now I think so. He was a heel, so that eliminates the British Bulldogs. So I got it down to two, and I think I'm going to go with it's either Lord Steven Regal or the King Harley Race. So I'm going to go with the King Harley Race.
I will say no, sir. That is the wrong nation. I see where you're going for. But that is the wrong nation that you are pulling from. The music, I could see it's a little confusing. And speaking of confusing, I know he is completely out of his depth now because we are joined. It is a rare Monday option block appearance by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Now, the uncleist of Mike's has protested in the past. He didn't like the notion that the Rock Lobster and the Greasiest Meatballs could join forces like Voltron to try to combine against him. I'm going to guess you're going to be okay with this one, Mr. Uncle Mike, because I would be stunned if the Rock Lobster could get this. But nevertheless, I'll give him two swings at the bat. Why not? Mr. Rock Lobster, A, welcome to the Monday show. And B, we're going deep cuts now. I'll give you a hint. That was kind of a nationalistic type thing. So maybe if you could think of any wrestlers who maybe were aligned with that kind of nationality.
I do appreciate being invited on the show, number one. And dueling with Mike TOSAW, it's kind of like bringing a knife to a gunfight with TOSAW in this thing. Or not like a pocket knife.
You are a wee bit outgunned here, yes.
Yes, outgunned. Well, I will say that theme song sounds very French to me.
Yes. See, that's what I told Uncle Mike. He was the wrong country.
It would be some bizarre, guy trying to be like a French legionnaire. So the Legionnaire.
Oh, that guy. Not bad. I'll give you half credit for just being at least getting the nation right. But no, both of your last are incorrect. It was Dino Bravo.
Not would have thought of that.
Uncle Mike.
Not have got that.
Literally, what I was about to say.
You about to say Dino Bravo? Yeah. So you were going English. I can see how you might be a little confused by that.
Bravo.
But that is indeed the theme music of none other than Dino Bravo. Subject of a Dark Side of the Ring, had a bit of an ignominious end to his career and his life. He left the WWE and was gunned down in, I believe, some sort of cigarette ring deal gone bad in somewhere in Canada. So yes, ignominious end. I think he was one of the many world's strongest men at the time, Dino Bravo. So we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for The Trading Block.
That was nice. I gave you a hint. I said he, so I thought maybe you'd be confused. Go the Rougeau brothers. That's another good guess for that one. I tried to give you that. It wasn't a tag team, but alas, it was not enough. No points. No points are awarded, even though if there are pity points to be awarded for at least getting the nationality right, then the Rock Lobster will get those. We'll have to put something fun in his umbrage box that he is complaining about. Mr. Rock Lobster, don't go on Twitter today because more people are tweeting joyously about receiving their pro trading crates, and it will just make you angry. So do not go on Twitter today, sir. Stay far away from that, lest the umbrage be unleashed. Looks like no umbrage out there in the market today, listeners. We was looking a little maybe umbragey to start the session off, but now we're looking firmly in the green. Most of the major indices in the green. Again, not over enthusiastic, but enough to make it green across the board. S&P up about 0.4%, hanging out right around the 37.85 range right now. NASDAQ only up about 0.2%, and the Dow leading the charge today, a rare Dow leading day, up almost a full percent, about 0.9% out there in the Dow. So how low do we get in the S&P? We got lower, obviously, today, about 20 odd handles almost lower, but it's not like we threatened to break 3,700 or anything like that in the early session. So a little bit of chop out there, as would be expected. We are, of course, coming up on the midterms, listeners, here in the U.S., so that usually adds a good dose of volatility and uncertainty to the marketplace. And let's see what's going on out there from a vol perspective right now as we're heading into these big midterms. When we kicked off the show, VIX was at a little bit shy of 25, 24.75, down about half a point from where it was on Thursday's show. VVIX, so the vol, hanging out at an 80 still. That's literally unched from Thursday's show. A VXX at about a 17.10. That's down about half a point from where it was on Thursday. UVXY, 930, down almost half a point, about 0.45 from where it was on Thursday's show. So back below the 10 handle, listeners. Is it time? Unleash your questions upon us. Is it reverse split time? SVIX, our inverse friend, 12.5, up about a third of a point since Thursday. UVIX, our levered friend, 890, down about a little over half a point, about 0.6 of a point since Thursday. And VolQ hanging out at about a 30.5 when we kicked off the show, down almost 0.75 of a point, about 0.7 from where it was on Thursday's show. All right, that's our table setting for this week. Let's kick things off with the uncleest of Mikes. He didn't win, but we didn't get a chance to chat with him last week, so we'll kick things off. A, if you have any enduring memories of the tragic figure that was Dino Bravo, sir, have at it. And then B, what's been lighting up your tape in the week and change since we last chatted with you, sir?
So I think that from what I remember about Canadian strongman Dino Bravo it's like there was a lot of strong men in the WWF at that time.
There were a lot of strong dudes.
And there were. And so, a couple of things that come to me, if I remember correctly, him and Ted Arcidi were having some type of bench press contest. That was back when they did bench press contests by the ring, and that would usually they'd get mad at each other and throw chalk in each other's eyes and then just beat the tar out of each other and things like that. Those were the days. But if I remember correctly, there was like the big controversy of when Jesse the Body, I believe he was spotting him in the bench press contest, and they said that Jesse the Body touched the bar. So it didn't count for his world record in the bench press contest between him and Ted Arcidi, I believe. Now, in real life, Ted Arcidi was the first man to bench press 700 pounds. He did it in the late 80s. I believe he got 725 in 1991. Ted Arcidi had a brief run as a wrestler. He starred in WrestleMania 2. And he was also known, I have a powerlifting background, so that's how I know about old Ted Arcidi. But I believe he was also in the running for it. But then they kind of took those guys off the radar when Ken Patera got out of jail, because Ken Patera was an Olympic lifting strongman. So you can only have so many world's strongest men in your federation. So it was an interesting crowd, but they never really quite got over like I think they could have if they'd have pushed them a little bit more in the strongman crowd. I thought it was a really cool stable of people in terms of characters, so to speak, and very interesting to see. Another odd fact about Ted Arcidi, I know I'm kind of diverting from Canadian strongman Dino Bravo. Ted Arcidi was actually a special guest on the Morton Downey Jr. show back in the 80s.
Oh, old school. Smoke cigarettes all day. Yes.
convincing the world on how wrestling was not fake. He was on there. He was in a stable of wrestlers trying to convince the world. There was a big debate, and it was quite entertaining if you ever want to YouTube search Morton Downey Jr. with wrestlers. Lou Albano was on there. David Schultz was on there. So there was a lot of interesting fellas on.
You are a font of 80s wrestling trivia, sir.
That's you just wait till I get going. So anyway, but fast forward 40 years to the modern day. But yeah, I think that last week the market did not like what the Fed was saying after the 75-point rate increase. So the market poo-pooed it, went down. A little bit of a recovery later in the week. But for right now, the market's kind of keeping powder dry today, and that we have not had a lot of movement. Last night, looking at the futures in the S&P, we had a 30-point drop initially, and eventually that kind of came back. And then we were up roughly 20 points in the futures pre-market today at one point. But for right now, we've just been kind of channeling and hanging out. Low of the day so far low of the day is down roughly 7 points. High of the day is up roughly 20 points. So have not had a very big range of movement in the markets today, all things considered. 10-year notes are pretty flat on the day, so we're not getting a ton of movement there. In terms of the sectors, and with where we're going on the sectors in the marketplace today, a couple sectors that are kind of sticking out right now, of course, energy, with XLE being up roughly 1.5%. We also have consumer discretionaries are being down roughly 1%. And then, good gosh, what's going on here? Utilities are down 3% on the day. That is just something to strike fear in the hearts of the masses when we have the utilities drop as such. So we're really not getting a ton of movement today in anything. I guess the biggest mover on my screen right now for today would be natural gas up 10%. But for natural gas, that's really not much of a mover. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about, this isn't so much a today thing, but so much just a recent thing, would be my beloved shiny silver. Silver has just been on a tear over the course of the last couple of days, up over 10% from its lows a couple days ago. On Thursday. So we did have some movement in the silver realm. So silver SLV at least is making another run at 20. We'll see if it can make it or not. But for the time being, we are catching a little bit of a bid there. That seems to be kind of a psychological top in a way with it. But I don't know how much I would read into SLV being the psychological top, because most people, where more volume is going to come in with larger money, would be in silver futures, and that's making a run at 21, not 20. So with all that being said, it's kind of a whole lot of nothing right now. It appears that we'll have more to talk about around the block, because we do have some back-end heavy information coming out later this week. I believe we have CPI later this week, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Mark Longo says that we have Apple earnings coming out today. So that's what I'm seeing today.
Apple earnings are 3 times this week. You didn't check the calendar? It's today, it's Wednesday, then again, the revision is don't you know this by now? They do the trifecta of earnings in the week. I thought everyone knew this.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And it's old news by now, the way they do their earnings. Very unique to them. I'll give them credit for that. They do take a unique approach to the earnings trifecta announcement, but still intriguing stuff nonetheless. Let's go on out now. And listeners, I am joking, of course. Do not if you're a newer listener, we know there are many. You may not pick up on that joke. That's old school odd block. So yes, don't go looking for a trifecta of Apple earnings announcements this week. Let's go on out instead to the land of clam piracy. The pirates are rampant on the shores of Maine, and there is only one lone guardian to defend us from them. He is the rock lobster, and thankfully he takes time out of his guarding of the shores of Maine to talk to us here on the show. Mr. Rock Lobster, thanks for taking a break from your vigilance here and to talk to us on the show. What is lighting up your tape, since we know it wasn't 80s wrestling, sir?
I'm still. I think I took a half a point from TOSAW. I'm happy about.
You got the right nation. You got the right nation. Now he was French Canadian, but it's a French song, so we got to give it to you.
I'm just surprised with all TOSAW actually knew about that guy that he didn't get it.
Umbrage.
But he plays that La Marseille music. That's his music, right? It's very French.
Yes, I was about to say.
Quebec is French speaking.
Yes, he's French Canadian. Yes.
Yes. So just like if someone's a German American or this, that, or the other, he's still Canadian. He ain't French.
I don't know. There are some Quebecois out there who may take issue with that, sir.
Well, wah to them. French.
He's more French than the British Bulldog. I will say that.
All I can say is my week starts off complete after that. Just edging him ever so slightly.
I'm going to book a flight out to Maine and steal your clams.
I think the Legionnaire would have been a cool gimmick. I would have been down with the Legionnaire.
It's so nice right now. This is we're getting a little Indian summer here, so it's quite lovely. And I guess market vol. Here's a fact. Where's Russell when we need him? I think today. Now it's a weekend effect Monday, but VIX has 15 red candles in a row, I believe. So I don't know. That's certainly not bullish for vol. And I know there's a lot of the market prognosticators like, we can't bottom unless VIX has an 80, right? Because, it happened in 1987. You had the spike, what was the intraday VIX? The VIX calculation then probably went to 120 or something on that crash day. But then, we had 2008, and then we had the crisis in I believe the dot-com boom was a pretty good crisis. And you know what? I don't recall the vol was high, but did it get to a 40 vol? Because it was kind of just like a long, slow decline. And that was marked a pretty low, as I recall. The QQQ was only $18 in 2002. Pretty low, right? 266 now. So just saying that was a generational low for the product. I do not recall vol. Vol was elevated, but VIX wasn't around then. But I S&P 500 vol I don't think was really much over 25 or 30. I wasn't trading SPX then, but I don't recall it being that high. So you can get, that was from a peak to trough, pretty substantial. So, the market can just stink. There could be no appetite for stocks, and stocks can go down for a while. And I think you look at it right now. They're starting like the leaders, Facebook, Google. Now Apple's holding up fairly well considering the news about their new phone. It was down like $2 today, but it's still holding up pretty well. So, overall, there's a little bit of a leadership change, now at maybe oil and energy companies. And we'll see how far that runs. But from a volatility point of view, 10-day realized the SPX is 24 and VIX is 24.65. So the market has still been moving. We've dropped from 390 SPX to 370, I think in about 20 minutes last week, from like Tuesday to I think on Wednesday, right? The Fed basically said, hey, we can make rates higher, which, you have to think at this point after 6 meetings, and they took rates up pretty much how they said they were going to take them up until we see inflation abate. But the market keeps wanting to believe that the Fed's seeing something that everybody else is not. And I know that inflation will be over when my wife comes home and is not unhappy with how much food costs. So that's my inflation indicator. So far, it has been pretty accurate. She's like, still expensive. I think some things are getting a little better, but overall, it's still there. So I think from a current point of view, is the market fairly valued? Who knows? I like TOSAW's 3,900 gravitational pull, and we've traded right down as low as 3,700 recently, and then we had like one day 3,500. again, I also like, in my head, I'm like, okay, we're pretty much wiping out all of 2021. So, and we're a little above that now. And I look back at right before COVID, we were 3379, and we got down to 3,500. So we probably, and prior to COVID, I think things were going like pretty good. I think interest rates were still way too low, but they're addressing that now. So I mean, the big, I think the big question now is risk has shifted. Like the private sector, I think has deleveraged substantially. Let's say from 2008 levels. People are buying houses now, but it's much harder to buy a house now than it was in 2008 for a credit quality point of view. But I think, the risk really is with the sovereign governments. And, they went on the spending binge. All of them did. And you can't blame one party or the other because they all had a shot at it. The deficit was getting less for a while a few years ago, and then it started back up again after COVID, then exploded like crazy town. And now we're just hung with all this, the hangover. So how long is the hangover affect stocks? It depends on policy, and we're gonna, as TOSAW said, we'll see what happens after Tuesday. Hopefully, we get election results, because Brazil can have election results, but the United States, because we don't have election results, which is I have to say a little mind-boggling, to be quite honest. So, but for now, we have, VIX seems fairly priced. The CPI number will come out. My guess, it will still be like it has been. It'll be hot. Energy prices are coming down a little bit, which is helping. Maybe some used car prices, some stuff like that. But like traveling, still expensive. Groceries, still expensive. Stuff people still buy, still expensive. And the reality is they're going to stop releasing the SPR, whatever, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I'm sure by Wednesday of this week or Thursday, that will end. And, gas prices will go back up again. So I don't, the inflation thing is still here. It's not going away. It's just how low do stocks go while we're in an inflationary environment? So far, 3,500 is the number. But some companies did manage to turn in some decent performance. And, as long as you have capital markets that are fairly open like we have, prices will adjust and demand will adjust and things will happen. I think the most absurd thing is the EU trying to create some sort of price cap on everything. And to be honest, it's just a result of their own policy. They chose a path, and that path is not as yet a sustainable energy path. So hopefully we don't linger too far down that. I'm all for greener energy and things like that, but until we have something to replace, right, the current energy needs, you got to be a little careful about getting rid of the energy that you do have. So that is, I think that's where we are. There were, the election and all that kind of stuff. And for this week, I don't expect too much action until the CPI number is out. But VIX is certainly down, one way or another. It was 34 15 days ago. Now it's 24. So there is a huge part of the market that said, or traders are like, we could go lower, but we don't think we're going a whole lot lower anytime soon. And that's what Wall's saying. But that doesn't mean we still can't have a relatively high VIX, because we're still at a 30-day vol in the SPX is 27, 60-day vol is 25. That is the top 3 most volatile periods of time. 2022 is over the last 20 years. So, besides a great financial crisis and we're all going to die of COVID and the EU is going to break apart, this is right up there. It's actually the amount of realized vol, I believe, is higher than the whole, the euro going to zero because of the Greek credit crisis. So we're still in that period. So the market, that part of market volatility has not gone away at all. It's just that we're up 2%, down 2%, up 2%. We're orbiting and going nowhere at a higher frequency. So that's what it is. And so people that are, a lot of people talk about VIX. A lot of people talk about VIX that have never traded an S&P 500 option in their life. As we say on this show, it's still math, and traders respond to the moves that they see and the inventory on their book. And so at least at this point, I don't think it's going to change. If we get any kind of a slightly better CPI number, if Congress becomes a little more balanced, historically, as I recall, every time you end up having a balance, the executive branch is one party and Congress is another, markets tend to do better because it's a lot harder to do anything in Congress, all these big spending bills and stuff that it has passed. That would have never happened if the House was, if the voting was somewhat more evenly split. So the market tends to like a divided Congress better than, one party rules everything. And we'll see what happens after Tuesday. But as of right now, I think volatility is just very fair. And for us to get to a 20, because we're almost out of the danger zone, something has to go a little better and things have to calm down a little more. And there's nothing on the horizon that says that will happen. Unless we get a surprise drop in inflation, or that rate goes down substantially, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon.
Well, speaking of good things happening, Mr. Rock Lobster, we put out your bat signal. You said this must be some sort of record, VIX having 15 red candles in a row. And the Once and Future Dr. VIX heard it. He said, Excelsior, he's on it. So he's going to try to get us the answer sometime before the end of the show. So we shall see. So there we go. See, ask, and you shall receive, sir. Let's go on out now to the rest of these markets, listeners, see what's lighting up our collective tapes out there. And we're seeing decent paper. It's kind of a mixed bag. Kind of depends where you're looking. VIX, again, decent, north of 250,000. That's nothing to sneeze at. 273,000 contracts. It's not the rock'em sock'em robots days we may have been used to a couple of weeks ago, but it's enough to keep the ADV back at 583. We're not trending in the wrong direction again. It's actually ticked up a little bit since our last show, so maybe threatening 600K again. We shall see. SPY, about 4.2 million contracts on the tape right now. The ADV, about 8.25. The S, about 1.4 million contracts right now. The ADV, 2.88 million. Small caps, IWM, 285,000 contracts. So kind of a light day for them. The ADV is 951,000. Got to imagine it's not going to be hanging out there for too much longer if they keep putting up numbers like this. And the Qs, 1.41 million contracts. The ADV, about 2.75 million. Let's get out to the single name, most active, what's lighting it up today. And it's one of those days, listeners, where it's just kind of light. I think the market is just taking a break. We are in earnings season, so folks are waiting to kind of digest some of those numbers. We have other macro numbers coming up a little bit later this week, so folks waiting for those. As a result, we're seeing a very bifurcated most active list. The bottom half, not so much. The top half, dense and kind of thick. So it cost you only 185,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. That is not a heck of a lot, listeners. That is reminiscent of the dog days of August, quite frankly, or maybe late December holiday activity out there. That gets you to Bank of America. They're kind of unched on the day after they had a nice little spike this morning up to about 37 1/3. They're hanging out at 36.80 or so right now. Good for only 185,000 contracts. Number 9 is Softy, still managing to make it into our top 10 today. 198,000 contracts for Softy. 225.60, up about 4.25 and nearly 2%. So a nice little pop here for good old Softy. Let's see, where are we hanging out in the lifespan of Softy? Their low for the year was just last week on the 3rd, 213.43. So they have rallied over $10, about $12 from that level now. So intriguing stuff out there for Softy. Number 8, Chipland, coming a little bit early today. Coming in at number 8 with NVIDIA. Only 200,000 contracts. It's kind of a light day when NVIDIA is kind of like, not a lot going on. 200K. Usually you can count on NVIDIA for somewhere around 400,000 contracts by this time of day. NVIDIA is kind of off about 1/3 today. It's not a huge rock'em sock'em day for them, at least not right now. Net on the day, they've had some movement. They got up to about 143 and a low of about 139.5. So they have had a decent range on the day, hanging out kind of unched right now, 141.30. Again, good for 200,000 contracts. Number 7, we got the old Alphabet, a.k.a. Google, 209,000 contracts, up about 1.5%, hanging out at $88 right now. Number 6, the other half of our chip zone here, we got AMD also coming early. 235,000 contracts only for AMD as well. Again, that's one he's usually reliable for somewhere in the 400 to 600K range by now. So kind of a light day. About $62 is where AMD is hanging out right now. It's had looks like about a $2 range on the day. And then we move up a little bit. Got some new names kicking the old hands down, including this name we haven't talked about in a while. This is Palantir. You know this one, ticker symbol PLTR. Very controversial name out there. Either you love them or you hate them, it seems like, on this name. Trading below a 7 handle right now, 690. They had earnings this morning. And apparently, the market not liking what they're seeing. Their 52-week low is 644. They're not quite there, but they're at about 690 right now. Did they hit it today? No, they got down to about 689. That's pretty much, we're at the low right now. Let's see, when did they hit that? Looks like they hit that previous low back in May 11th. So they have been down at this level before. But since then they rallied hard. They caught that wind in August, probably more aggressive than a lot of other stocks. They rallied from about 644 in May all the way up to $11.50 in August before giving it all right back down to where they are again right now, flirting with those 52-week lows again. I guess the government contracts not coming in, earnings not coming in as expected. And Palantir, again, an intriguing name. Doesn't seem like that long ago we were talking about writing puts on the 10 strike there on options oddities, and now that is far in the rearview mirror. Number 4, now we're jumping up a little bit. Of course, Palantir 258, and we jump from 258 listeners to 679,000. That's quite a leap. That gets us to number 4, the Amazonians, hanging out 89.30 right now, off about $1.70 on the day. That's close to the low for the day. The low for the day was $89. Actually had about a $3 range. It got up to about 92.10 on the day. So a decent range for the Amazonians and decent paper as well. Number 3, Meta. They're one of the many tech names that's talking about layoffs for the first time in their existence. And Meta making some headlines today. I guess the market liking these layoffs. Up 420 right now, about 4.6%, hanging out at about $95 right now for Meta. That's the first uptick we've seen in a while out there for Meta. They have just come for this name. We talked about it last week. It was a result of or I should say the subject of our question of the week. And I'll reveal the results in a little bit. But they have come for Meta quite a bit. Number 2 is the fruit company. It is Apple, hanging out at 726,000 contracts. And, it's a green day on the street, but can it really be green if Apple is red? It just seems wrong. The market does not like it when Apple is red, and it is red right now. Granted, it has bounced off its lows. The low is 135.67, is trading a little bit shy of 137 right now. So it has rebounded from its lows earlier in the session. But still, if Apple is red, can the rest of the market really be green? Is that real, or is it all just an illusion? Good for 726,000 contracts. That means the number 1, listeners, you know what it is. It's Tesla, 1.53 million contracts on the tape. Trading a little bit shy of 198, off of nearly $10 or 4.5%. So they're coming for Tesla. I don't know what the headline is today that is driving it another 10 handles. Every day that ends in Y, there's some sort of crazy headline in Tesla. But right now, back below the 200 handle. As we keep on rolling, by the way, listeners, newly updated, you want to deep dive into Palantir or all these names that are popping off, Activision, Blizzard later today, Disney tomorrow, AMC. We've got Roblox on Wednesday, Rivian, Beyond Meat, Bumble, Wendy's on Wednesday. Thursday, Neo, back to electric cars, and Six Flags. You want all those earnings move results, earnings season, all sorts of fun. We got it for you over there, theoptionsider.com. Hot off the presses, brand spanking new, updated earnings move results, earnings season, and earnings trades reports. Check them out for yourselves, listeners. We got to keep on rolling. We're already coming up against it, and we haven't even gotten to the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the odd block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild. And Mr. Rock Lobster, you know I like a good, fun ticker here for the Odd Block. So you can imagine my disappointment at our first name. Because these names, when they first come out at us from the Eye of Sauron, the tickers are all in caps. So it looked like this was the ticker TREX, all in caps. And I thought, there's a TREX ticker? How have I missed this all these years? This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to whatever this is on the Odd Block. And lo and behold, when we fired up the analysis machine, we were very, very saddened to find out that it was actually just TREX, a manufacturer of wood alternative composite decking. That's just talk about going from the highs to the lows in the span of a few seconds, Mr. Rock Lobster. That is nowhere near as exciting. But nonetheless, I suppose we'll talk about alternative decking. Although if you want to talk about the king of the dinosaurs, I'm here for it as well. TREX, I'm just going to call it TREX because it's way cooler. TREX trading $43.10 right now, up about 80 cents. So apparently the market liking alternative decking right now. And you can tell I'm not a suburban guy. I know nothing about alternative decking. A year ago, it was trading 116, got to its high for the year of around 140. That looks like it came in December of last year. So this peaked about a month after the rest of the market. And then it's been kind of selling off pretty hard ever since. End of the year is 135 on December 31st. By January 27th, it was $85. So they actually came for it pretty quickly. And then the other 40-odd handles has kind of bled out over the span of the rest of this year. So it's been a rough year. It's off about 63% on the year for TREX. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found, Mr. Rock Lobster. Looks like someone is deciding this sell-off has gone far enough, this far and no farther, for everyone's new favorite name, TREX. And they're going to blast away at some of the December 30 puts. Remember I said we're at a little bit north of 43 right now, listeners. They sold these bad boys for 26 cents right off the bid, 5,324 times. The stock was a little lower, 42.65 when this trade went up. So that already passes the Rock Lobster's first test. The stock has moved in their favor. But $30, Mr. Rock Lobster, who wouldn't buy a TREX for $30, I ask you?
You know what? It's how easy it is to make you happy. The glee that
there was some glee, and then it was ripped away very savagely.
Well, this is another one where you remember when those building prices went sky high?
I do recall that. Yes, yes.
This is I think this is a good company. It makes interesting products. But right now they're like, you're looking at it like, okay. I believe it's hard not to think that this is some kind of line in the sand put there for $0.25. That's definitely, I would say that, I'm not going to say that's a safe sale, but I think they're taking the fact that volatility is a little higher and rolling with it and giving it the wackadoo. So I'm going to say with confidence that is a line in the sand put sale. And wow, they put up some paper here. I'm seeing 10,000 on them on December. Maybe somebody wants to give their girlfriend a Ferrari for Christmas. They'll have 9 days to spare.
Indeed. Speaking of things to spare, Mr. Rhodes can't spare the data for you, Mr. Rock Lobster. He replied that 15 days is the longest that VIX bars have been on a red streak. And then he tweeted out all the streaks of 10 days or longer since 2000. And there was, this now is 15 days. So this is kind of the record holder. Got to go back to April of 2009 for 13 days. That's tied with, January of 2019, also at 13 days. Then we have three names tied for 11th, July of 2012, February of 2015, and July of 2016. All three of those had 11 days of red VIX candles. And then at the end, we have a tie for 10 days, 3 each as well. March 2016, August of 2021, and June of 2022. So there you go, sir. Ask and you shall receive. You put up the VIX bat signal and you get your answer.
Well, I'm feeling my powers of observation. While they never will be as good as Dr. VIX, I feel like I've been paying attention to all this VIX stuff.
feel like you have been paying attention. So check that out for yourselves, listeners, if you want to see all that fun stuff. Make sure you're following us, or if you're following the Rock Lobster Option Vol, or Mr. Rhodes, all Russell Rhodes, all one word over there on Twitter. You can see it all for yourselves. Let's get out to another. I guess if there's a theme to our odd block today, it is line in the sand puts. It's kind of the trade du jour. We go out now to Louisiana Pacific, and we'll kind of run through these kind of quickly because we are coming up against it. Ticker symbol LPX, trading 54.25 right now. This one has had kind of a. There we go. That's a little better. Then that chart was looking weird for a second. But there we go. That makes more sense. A year ago, it was trading $64.60. Got up to its high of about $80 back in December of last year. And then it reached it again, close to it, $77.50 in May of this year. Then they sold off to $51 in June. And they've kind of rallied again in July to 62 and then back down to where they're at now, 54.25. So intriguing. Back to the building materials industry out here. This time, another line in the sand put. I said we're trading 54.25 right now. Someone sold the 42 half puts in December, 4,100 times for 39 cents. On this market was an embarrassment, a dime at 85 cents. I don't think they bought them for 39 cents. I would be kind of surprised. It is a 55 vol on this strike. Worth noting, they are going ex-div now as well. So that does always add a little bit of extra fun to the put analysis. Mr. Rock Lobster, are we 2 for 2 here, you think? Line in the sand, this time in Louisiana Pacific Corp?
Yeah, what's that symbol again? LPX?
LPX.
So all listeners should remind the benevolent dictator to send me the show notes because I do participate on his program.
You don't have them again?
No.
Well, in my defense, you're not expected on the Monday show too often.
Listen, I totally get it. I totally get it. And I know that might be one extra click for you, and it's very difficult, but I know you have minions.
Blame the super producer. Blame the super producer. It's all them.
I fear the super producer, actually. So it's easier to blame you. And
we all fear the super producer.
The super producer.
Yes.
I think, again, Louisiana, isn't this kind of a commodities type wood lumber thing, kind of same industry, if I am not mistaken?
It does seem adjacent, yes.
It does seem adjacent, yes. Citing OSB, Oriented Stranded Board, that funky particle board that never dies. I think this person is making a little, not a huge bet, but like, hey, these businesses aren't going to go bankrupt anytime soon. LPX is like on an earnings tear, substantial cash, reasonable valuation. And they're saying, hey, $42. I think they're going to be happy with $42. So yeah, Luis, it's a again, that's a super value added product as well. The kind of composite stuff they do. Now that I kind of make things in Maine, I appreciate companies like this. So yeah, I reasonable line in the sand put. But as with all line in the sand puts, you must be able to take delivery and you might have to eat your own dog food sometimes, like in Palantir. But you're like, hey, I think maybe, I don't know if is this a nod to the building industry, maybe, but we'll see. But bold in the face of the potential recession and building more houses and all that somebody is whacking these puts out. So, but I would have to say the prices are also 2-year lows that they're looking at here. So this is a substantially, this is a pretty decent, distance out of the money for a name like this. And it would, it's around a COVID low purchase. So the price is pretty good.
Yes, these are both, I think you could say, relatively quote unquote safe line in the sand puts on both of these building materials names. We are coming up against, I want to make sure we have time to get to Uncle Mike. So I'm going to burn through this last one here really quickly. Going out to the cannabis sector, Chronos Group, CRON. out there, and not exactly lighting the world on fire today. They're off about 10%, 278. We had earnings before the bell this morning, and people are loading up, it seems like, on the 2.5 puts in December. We saw 3,400 going up for 12 cents, lifting the offer another about 2,958 for 12 cents. Another 1,000 to 12 cents seems to be the price du jour out here. Folks gobbling away at the 2.5 puts. That's not exactly a good sign, since the 52-week low is 257, and folks are lining up to pay 12 cents for the 2.5 puts. So intriguing stuff. You guys agree with that? Would you rather sell these? Listeners, hit us up. Let us know, as it is time for Uncle Mike to let us know what's on his brain. It's time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, Uncle Mike, I know you're rusty. It's been a while since you've done this, but if you can recall how to do it, this is the portion of the show where we dispense options, wit, and or wisdom. What you got in store for us this week, sir?
So I want to reemphasize, I want to revisit the garbage put or the garbage put spread and how important it can be in volatile markets. So if you are selling put spreads, or you can use this for a call spread too if you're really concerned with it. But if you want to sell some premium in this marketplace and you're just concerned about something drastic happening, which drastic things happen all the time in these markets these days, it seems, the garbage put spread is something to consider. And so what I mean by that is that, and I've talked about this on the show a few times, but I just want to revisit it because I think it's an important tool to at least have in your toolbox if you need it. So you're just a diehard premium seller. You are just, you want to sell premium no matter what. And you're looking at this higher VIX, even though it's a lot lower than 30 right now, but still relatively high considering in the days of the 9 VIX of a couple years ago. And you want to sell some premium. But you're concerned we have election day tomorrow, and those lousy Democrats or those lousy Republicans might mess things up, whatever the case may be, and you're concerned. Well, for usually a couple pennies, if you're selling a premium that's going to last maybe a month or so, or a week or 2 months or whatever, and you're concerned with those lousy politicians or that scary number coming up, you may want to consider buying something far out of the money that costs you a couple pennies or a penny, just depending on the price with which you're paying. So let's say, for example, that you're just selling a XYZ stocks at 50, and maybe you're selling a 45-40 put spread on it, or selling the 45 put. You have you're not leveraged, and you're just concerned about one day. Now, you're okay if, let's say, the stock goes from say 50 to 48 or something like that. You're okay with it. You can handle that. That's not a big deal. Obviously, you don't want it, but you can handle that kind of an initial pullback. Well, if that's the case, that's fine. But what you're concerned with is if the stock were to go down to like 42 or 43 or something like that, well, then what you may want to consider is looking to buy maybe, and I'm just making up numbers and shooting from the hip here, of course, but you may want to consider looking to buy like a 45-43 put spread, or maybe a 43-40 put spread, something like that, and have it expire in a day. It'll cost you a penny, maybe 2 pennies, something like that. But if we do have the apocalypse, if we do have this horrible thing that's happening, then you're prepared for it. You can sleep at night. And if we don't, from a risk reward standpoint, it costs you a penny. Now, I'm typically more of a fan of buying a spread in this instance, as opposed to buying just a single put option, because I'm not looking to make money on gamma of the stock going from 50 to 48 and then having the option go from 32 cents to 48 cents or whatever. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for, if I'm going to lose $6 or something along those lines, I want to be protected. So I'm not looking to benefit from gamma. I'm looking to benefit from catastrophe, or I should say, insure myself from catastrophe. And that's how I like to look at it. So if you're concerned with events coming up, which there's a lot of them coming up, perhaps look into a garbage put spread. It's a 99.9% chance it's going to be a waste of money, but in the 1 in 1,000 times that you need it, it could pay off big and help you in a major way. One thing I can say from personal experience, it will make you sleep better. And that is the strategy block for today.
All right, listeners, that music means we have come up against it for this episode. Really quickly, our question of the week here is this week, a fun one. We're kind of building on some of the questions we've asked you in the past to get your pulse yet again. This week, we're revisiting a question we asked you back in March. Back in March, we asked you folks, how are you guys maybe adjusting your trading style to accommodate for what we're seeing out there in the marketplace, which at that time was a lot of topsy-turviness. These days, that has continued. So we're revisiting that question. How are you adjusting your trading style in light of what's going on out there in the markets? We gave you 4 choices: reducing your equity holdings, buying crypto, bargain hunting, so you're BTFDing, or you're hedging your positions. And right now, 37.5% of you are choosing reducing your equity holdings. That just went live right before showtime. So get out there at options, make your voice heard. That is our question of the week this week. And let's go around the horn. Let's see what everyone else is looking at for the rest of the week, and also what they're working on that may interest you. Let's start in the land of the Rock Lobster. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, when you're not watching 80s wrestling, what are you watching for the rest of this week? And where should folks go if they want to reach out to you to learn more?
I'm gonna go and put on my Edith Piaf records and maybe sip some kind of weird French liqueur. Just enjoying my semi-victory today. What else am I watching? I think the election. Everybody says it's the end of the democracy. However, the last election, VIX was 35, and VIX is now 25. So, at least from a volatility trader point of view, they do not believe it is the end of democracy on this election, as it is much, much lower than it was the last time. Although last time did kind of go. So we'll see how that election goes out. Again, divided house, I think, is relatively bullish. You get a CPI number that's, not insane. And I think you could see like a 3850, maybe 3900 briefly for this week. So certainly possible. I think those are the big things because all the big earnings are pretty much out. So, from here on into Thanksgiving, I think that's what we got.
There you go. And if you want to learn more, head on over to the Land of the Pit, optionpit.com. Ask for the other Andrew. You don't want to talk to this one. The other Andrew can help you get things done. And Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week? And where can folks go if they want more Uncle Mike in their lives?
Well, follow me on Twitter at TOSAW, TOSAW. I'll start putting out content again soon. Just had a little bit of personal hiatus the last week or so. And also, if you're looking for a financial advisor who is kind of fond of the option product, feel free to check out my website, get in contact with me, stcharleswealth.com. To all my viewers, the videos will be out again soon. But check out my YouTube channel as well. You can find it through Twitter in a lot of ways. St. Charles Wealth Management on YouTube. And in terms of this week, the election. What else is there? CPI. What else is there? Oh, yeah, everything. That's what I'm watching. Have a great day, folks.
All right, listen, it's going to do it for us here on the Option Block this week. But don't worry, if you're hanging out in the live, we'll put some fun stuff in there back in a little bit to break down Uncle Mike's favorite market, a.k.a. the wild world of crypto, on the Crypto Rundown. And then back again tomorrow, listeners. Another great pro Q&A session coming your way, as well as all the fun we're having out there. There we go, if I can pull it up. With John Brady from RJO. See, a lot of you have questions about rates right now. I understand it. He's a great guy to ask him on the Pro Q&A. Get those questions. And now, if you're not part of the Pro, you want to get the crate, you want to get access to the Pro Q&A, all the other cool stuff, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. Back again on Wednesday for Education Wednesday, where we will give away the Pro Trading Crate. So stay tuned for that, all your Pro members. And then back again on Thursday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.